She arrives when you're finally ready to love, but not ready to lose. Her presence feels like something ancient returning, like you've met before, somewhere behind time. The way she looks at you, it doesn't feel like attraction, it feels like recognition, as if her eyes remember who you were before the world told you who to be. You tell yourself this can't be a coincidence, that everything in your life was preparing you for this moment. And maybe you're right, but not in the way you think. Because sometimes, the right person enters your life when your soul is still out of rhythm with itself, and what feels like bad timing is actually perfect timing for transformation. Carl Jung once said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances. If there is any reaction, both are transformed." But transformation rarely feels romantic. It feels like something breaking open, like the universe showing you what love really means, by taking away everything you thought it was. So why does the right person appear when we're least ready to receive them? By the end of this video, you'll understand that she didn't come to stay. She came to awaken you. If you're drawn to the hidden patterns behind love and loss, if you've ever felt like timing was your greatest enemy, this space is for you. So make sure you subscribe to the channel. Now, take a breath. Let's step into the mystery of why the universe sends the right woman at the wrong time. Jung believed that every person carries within them an image of the opposite, an inner feminine in men and an inner masculine in women. He called it the anima and animus, the unseen halves of the soul, always searching for balance. When a man meets a woman whose energy mirrors his inner feminine, something profound happens. He doesn't just fall in love, he falls into himself. What he's really drawn to is the reflection of what he's forgotten, what he's missing, what his unconscious wants him to reclaim. It's not love at first sight, it's recognition at first sight. But the universe doesn't give us this mirror when it's convenient. It gives it to us when the soul is ready to be disrupted, because that's what real love does. It disrupts. It shatters the illusion that we are whole while hiding from our wounds. It brings to the surface the places we've neglected, the emotions we've buried, the shadows we've refused to see. So when the right woman arrives at the wrong time, she isn't a mistake. She's a mirror. Her timing isn't off. It's divine. Because her role isn't to stay, it's to wake something ancient inside you, something that has been asleep for far too long. And when that awakening begins, everything you once understood about love starts to unravel. When the right woman enters your life, it doesn't feel casual. It feels destined, like the air itself shifts when she walks into the room. You tell yourself you've finally found the one. But what you've really found is your reflection. There's something in her eyes that makes you remember what you used to dream about. Her presence doesn't just draw you in, it rearranges you. Every word, every glance feels like it's unlocking a door you didn't know existed. You feel more alive than you've ever been. And yet, something about it feels too bright, too fast, too real. Because it's not just love, it's recognition. A recognition of something the unconscious buried long ago. Jung wrote that when two souls meet before they're whole, love becomes the spark that sets the unfinished work on fire. That's why it feels so intense, so consuming. The psyche doesn't want comfort, it wants completion. And in her presence, your soul sees its chance to evolve. At first, everything feels effortless. You speak in the same rhythm, finish each other's sentences, and move through life as if time has finally caught up to destiny. But underneath the surface, something deeper begins to stir. A faint discomfort, a quiet imbalance. It's the moment when the mirror starts reflecting what you weren't ready to face. because the same woman who makes you feel infinite will eventually show you where you're still bound. Her love pulls you closer, but her reflection exposes what you haven't healed. The parts of you that hide behind control, pride, or fear. The timing feels wrong because her presence demands growth faster than you can handle. Every relationship between souls carries a temperature, and sometimes it burns too hot for this lifetime. You call it bad timing, but what it really is divine friction. She came not to complete you, but to challenge you to see who you are without the illusions. And the closer you get, the more your unconscious starts to resist. That's why it falls apart even when the love is real. Not because it was false, but because the soul can only stay in what it's ready to sustain. When the mirror gets too clear, we look away, and when we do, the universe steps in and separates what's not yet whole. She didn't leave because she didn't care. She left because the lesson was complete. And the timing wasn't wrong. It was sacred. You never notice the moment love begins to dissolve. It's not dramatic at first. It's quiet. The late-night talks become shorter, the silence is longer, and somewhere in between, something invisible slips away. You tell yourself it's stress, distance, timing, anything that sounds fixable. But deep down, you know, the thread that once held everything together has begun to thin. You feel it when her laughter doesn't reach you the same way. When her eyes, once so open, start looking past you instead of into you. You start asking questions you don't really want answered. And every time she hesitates before speaking, it's like the universe whispering, "This is where it ends." Jung called this the necessary disintegration of the ego's projection. The moment the illusion begins to crack, and you realize she was never the woman you built in your mind. She was real, but so were your illusions. And now, the mirror she held up begins to break. At first, you fight it. You promise yourself you can make it work. That love should be stronger than timing. But the harder you hold on, the faster it falls apart. Because you're not just losing her. You're losing the version of yourself that existed through her. This is where most people mistake endings for punishment. But endings, Jung said, are simply how the unconscious brings you closer to what's true. The relationship was never the goal. It was the initiation. She came to show you what love could reveal, not what it could sustain. Because every great love, every great heartbreak has two purposes: to awaken and to refine. She awakened the divine in you. Now the refining begins. You'll sit in the silence she leaves behind and try to fill it with distractions. But nothing will work. Not because you're broken, but because silence is the only thing that can echo loud enough to teach you what love really was. It wasn't her voice or her touch. It was the mirror she carried, the one that showed you your own soul calling for growth. And when she leaves, it's that call that remains. You'll think you miss her, but what you really miss is the version of yourself that finally felt awake. That's what makes heartbreak sacred. It strips away illusion. It forces you to meet the part of you that's been asleep your entire life. And once you do, love can never look the same again. You spend months, sometimes years, asking yourself why it had to happen that way. Why her? Why then? Why now? The mind calls it bad timing, but the soul calls it perfect choreography. Jung believed that the psyche operates on its own clock, a rhythm deeper than the one we measure with minutes and calendars. Every event, every meeting, every heartbreak unfolds not according to our plans, but according to the needs of our evolution. The right woman doesn't appear when life is convenient. She appears when the unconscious knows it's time to awaken something within you that can't be learned through comfort. Timing, in this sense, is the soul's way of keeping you honest. It exposes what you thought you were ready for and shows you where you're still afraid to grow. It takes the fantasy of control and replaces it with surrender. And surrender, Jung said, is the beginning of transformation. When the right woman arrives, your life splits into two timelines, the one you imagined and the one you were destined to walk. At first, you try to live both. You try to keep her close while keeping your old life intact. But that's not how awakenings work. The psyche will not let you stay divided. The wrong time is simply the soul's way of saying, not yet whole. You were ready for the feeling, but not for the work it demands. You were ready for love's beauty, but not its responsibility. You wanted connection without reflection. And so the universe, in its quiet precision, arranges what feels like loss, but is actually preparation. Because real timing isn't about schedules, it's about readiness. The right person at the wrong time is a mirror that shows you what must die before you can truly begin. It's the final test before wholeness, the meeting that asks, can you love without trying to possess? Can you lose without closing your heart? When she leaves, you think you failed, but you haven't. The relationship fulfilled its purpose. The lesson was timing itself. To learn that love's truth can't be forced into alignment with the ego's desires. You can't rush the psyche into maturity. You can't manipulate growth into happening sooner. You can only surrender to it when it arrives disguised as heartbreak. Every wrong-time love is a sacred rehearsal for the moment when the soul finally aligns with itself. And when it does, the next time love appears, it won't demand completion. It will reflect it. So maybe you didn't meet her too early. Maybe you met her at the only time your soul could bear the shock of its own becoming. And though your ego calls it tragedy, your spirit knows the truth. She came exactly when she was meant to show you that readiness has nothing to do with time. Loss feels cruel because it strips you of the story you thought you were living. But the truth is, the story was never yours to control. It belonged to the soul, and the soul doesn't measure success in duration. It measures it in transformation. Carl Jung said that every relationship, no matter how brief, carries the potential to awaken the unconscious. That's why the ones that end too soon hurt the most, because they're the ones that touch the deepest layers of who you are. When the right woman leaves, it's not the end of something sacred. It's the continuation of it inside you. Her absence becomes the silence that forces you to listen. Her distance becomes the mirror that shows you what you still cling to. She was never punishment. She was a process, a sacred dismantling of your illusions about love. The human heart wants permanence, but the psyche wants growth. It doesn't care if love lasts forever. It cares if love transforms you into someone who finally knows what love really is. That's why heartbreak is such a powerful teacher. It takes you apart in the exact places that were never authentic to begin with. It removes the masks, the projections, the expectations, until what remains is something raw and honest. You. Most people think healing means moving on, but Jung would say healing means integrating, taking the parts of the other person that awakened you and weaving them into your own wholeness. That's the real purpose of love, to reveal your missing pieces and then to help you reclaim them. She wasn't meant to complete you. She was meant to remind you that you already were. And sometimes, the only way the soul can give you back to yourself is by taking away what you thought you couldn't live without. You'll feel it in waves: grief, longing, nostalgia, clarity. Each emotion a message, each memory a thread pulling you back toward your center. Until one day, without realizing it, you'll stop looking for her in every face you meet, because you'll start recognizing her energy within yourself. That's what Jung called individuation, the slow return to your own essence. You stop chasing what once reflected you and begin embodying it instead. The love that once mirrored your wounds now becomes the light that heals them. The right woman at the wrong time didn't break you. She broke the illusion that timing determines destiny. Her presence was the storm that cleared your sky. Her leaving was the silence that taught you how to listen. And when you understand that, you stop seeing loss as failure. You begin to see it as the universe's way of realigning you with your true path. The soul always keeps its appointments, even the ones that end in goodbye. So, no, she didn't come too early, and she didn't leave too soon. She arrived at the only time she could, and departed the moment her purpose was fulfilled. The right woman appears when your heart is ready to open, and disappears when it's ready to grow. That is not tragedy, that is divine order. There comes a moment when the ache fades into understanding, when the story you couldn't stop replaying finally starts to dissolve. Not because you forget, but because you've seen the truth behind it. You realize she was never here to complete a chapter. She was here to turn the page. Carl Jung wrote that life doesn't happen to you. It happens for the growth of the psyche. Every ending, every silence, every wrong time is part of that sacred unfolding. So the love that broke you was actually sculpting you. It wasn't taking from you. It was carving space for what's next. You see, the universe doesn't make mistakes with timing. It makes mirrors. And through her, you saw the reflection of who you were becoming. That's why it hurt. Because evolution always asks you to release what no longer fits the size of your soul. When you can look back without resentment, when you can bless what once shattered you, that's when you know the lesson is complete. You no longer ask, why did she come if she couldn't stay? Because now you understand. She did stay. Not in form, but in essence. In the way you love, in the way you see the world, in the way your heart beats slower now. Not from fear, but from wisdom. The right woman didn't come at the wrong time. She came at the only time you could meet her and survive the lesson she carried. She was your soul's appointment with awakening. And when it was done, she left as quietly as she came, leaving only light behind. So breathe. Look at the space where she used to stand. That's not absence. That's completion. And one day, when you're ready, love will find you again. Not to awaken you, but to reflect the one who finally stayed. If this message found you, it wasn't by accident. Maybe you've been wondering why the universe took something you thought was meant to stay. But you're not behind. You're not broken. You're right on time. If her memory still lingers, let it. That's not weakness. That's proof you were capable of loving deeply. And that love didn't end. It simply changed form. If you felt something stir in you tonight, subscribe to the channel. Because here, we don't chase meaning. We remember it. We don't run from the ache. We walk through it. Together. So breathe. You're home.